इस वीडियो को लाइक करें। लेटेस्ट टेक्निकल वीडियोस देखने के लिए हमारे चैनल A2IT ऑनलाइन को सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन को दबाना ना भूलें।
So today we are going to talk about static routing protocol. Basically, in routing protocols, we have two types. First is static and second is dynamic. In static routing, we have two protocols that we can use to connect different networks together. First is exit interface and second is next flow. Similarly, in dynamic routing protocol, we have four types of protocols, four categories that we can use to connect different networks together. First is RIP, that is almost vanished from CCNA syllabus, but still we are reading about this protocol. Second is EIGRP, and third one is OSPF, and fifth one is BGP. But in CCNA, we are only going to talk about the first three protocols: RIP, EIGRP, or OSPF. So our today's concept is static routing, and in static routing, we will talk about the first protocol, which name is exit interface. So first of all, let's see how we can use the exit interface protocol. But before that, let me clear a one really important thing is, like in static protocol, no matter we are going to use the exit interface or next hop, we need to care about our indirect networks. The reason behind it is we need to mention each and every indirect network while we are using static routing. And in dynamic routing, we need to care about our direct networks. We just need to mention our direct networks, and it will all automatically identify the indirect networks, and it will help us to make connection for in multiple networks. Okay, so let's back to our point. So today we are going to talk about the the exit interface routing protocol, which is a part of static routing. So first of all, let me write its syntax. So we can start exit interface by adding a keyword IP route, and after this keyword we need to mention our indirect networks with their subnet mask. And to mention our indirect networks, we need to use their network IP. So let me mention it first. IP address of indirect networks. Alright. So we need to mention the IP address of our indirect networks with their subnet mask, and in the end we need to mention our port name. Okay, so let's try to implement this practical in our concept, like as I have create a diagram already in Packet Tracer. So first of all, we have done with the configuration of the private networks. Like for my first network, I have used IP address 10, network 20 for my second network, and IP address range 30 for my third network. So first of all, we need to configure, we need to make an activity between routers, and then we are able to use the static routing protocol. First of all, I need to connect all these network devices together using their IP addresses. Like as I mentioned here I am going to use the network 40, and in between second or third router connectivity I am going to use the network 50. It's simple, like we just need to select the interfaces that we have used to connect the routers together. Like for the connectivity for my first router with the second one, the port name is serial 000 for my first router, and also the same port serial 000 for my router 2. So first of all, let me enter the configuration terminal, and here we need to mention the keyword interface with their names. So the interface name is serial 0 by 0 by 0. So here I'm going to configure an IP address. So the IP address is the network 40. So I'm going to use the very first IP address of this network for my first routers. And here I'm going to use the FLSM only. So I'm going to enter the default subnet mask of class A. So this is the command IP address, the IP address 40001 and its subnet mask. The second thing is we need to mention no shutdown command to turn it on. Then exit. And this is good enough for first router. Now let's open our second router, and in second router we need to configure two serial interfaces. First serial 000 for my first router and serial 001 for my third router. This is the intermediate router actually, which help us to make connection with our router 1 and router 3. So let's configure both the interfaces. Okay, by mistake I entered the wrong keyword, so we just need to fast forward a little more time and it will be fixed. Alright, so now let's open its configuration terminal, and here I'm going to select that interface which is serial 0 by 0 by 0, and the IP address is okay. So in my router 1 I have used 40001, and for in my router 2 I need to use the same network but a different IP address. So here I'm going to use 40002 with the same subnet mask. No shutdown and exit. And one more thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to save all the commands on notepad. Later on I will share all the commands in the description of this video. Alright. Okay, so in second router we need to also configure the another interface which is serial 0 by 0 by 1, and as I mentioned the network that I'm going to use is 50. So 50001 I have configured this IP address for my second router. So no shutdown command and then exit. And the keyword that I'm going to use is do show history, which help us to let me know the recent commands that I have used here right here. So this is the okay. I think I have by mistake erase all the configuration that I have mentioned right here. Not a problem. I will share that later on. Okay. So first of all, we have configured our first two routers. Now let's move to our third router, that is, and the interface is serial 000 and the network is 50. So let's mention that. And in my router 2, I have mentioned the IP address 50001, and here I'm going to use 50002 with the same subnet mask. Alright, now we have done with the configuration part of our routers. So now let's start the configuration of our static routing protocol. So before that, let me check like are all the networks are working or not. So first of all, I just want to make sure like are these devices are able to connect with router. Okay, so perfect. Then our second network, all right, and third network. Okay, all the devices are working. And one more thing, I just need to check out the direct connectivity in between the routers. Okay, so that is also working, and the last connectivity, perfect. Now what we are going to do is I just want to connect these systems with these systems, and the devices who are connected in network 20, I just want to connect them with the last network that is not working right now. I can show you like I'm also trying to pinging there by using this message packet, but still we are not able to ping. Alright, now let's implement our routing protocol. So as I have mentioned right here, we need in exit interface, we need to take care about our indirect networks. So if I'm going to configure our router 1, so in my router 1, 10 and 40 are the direct networks. We have already mentioned a single IP address of both the networks in our router 1. But the network 20, network 30 and network 50 are the indirect networks for my router 1. So as I have mentioned, in our static routing protocols, we need to mention the indirect networks. So here we go. I'm going to use that keyword which is IP root, and to mention indirect networks, we need to use the network IP addresses of each network. So my second indirect network is 20. So the network IP address of that network is 20.0.0.0 space, and the subnet mask of that network that we have used is 25.255.0.0.0. And in the end, we need to mention our port which help us to make communication with that network. Like right now in my route, I am in my router 1, so I just want to go from this router to this network. So the port, we have configured two ports of this router, serial 000 and F is 0 by 0. F is 0 by 0 is connected with these systems. We are not able to use this interface to make connectivity with this network, but we can use serial interface to make connectivity with this network because the serial interface is connected with another router which is a part of network 20. So here I'm going to mention the serial interface 0 by 0 by 0. That's it. And now let's use the same keyword again. Like for my first router, I have three indirect networks. So I'm going to mention the network 30.0.0.0 and we have used the network same. So I'm going to mention 255.0.0.0, and in our router 1 we have only two ports as I mentioned. So for this network also I am going to mention this port again, serial 0 by 0 by 0, and the last network is 50. So 50.0.0.0 its network IP address and its subnet mask is 255.0.0.0, and the serial interface serial 0 by 0 by 1. That's it. We have done the configuration of our indirect networks, and still we are not able to ping with those networks. First of all, we need to connect all the devices together, like we need to configure all the routers. And for my second router, network 40, 50 and 20 are the direct networks. So there are only two indirect networks for my router 2 is 10 and 30. So let's configure both the networks in our router 2. So the keyword is IP root, and the network IP of our indirect network is 10.0.0.0, and the subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. Now let's focus on our router 2. So right now we are going to configure this router to make communication with this network. So in our router 2 we have configured three interfaces, serial 000, serial 001 and F is 0 by 0. F is 0 by 0 is connected with these devices, so we are not able to use this port to make connection with another networks. But both the serial interfaces were connected with another routers that we can use to make connection. So to reach this network, the network 10.0.0.0, which port that I can use? Like serial 000 is connected with our router 1, and router 1 is the part of this network. And serial 001 is connected with our router 3, which is the part of network 50 or 30. So we are not able to use this interface. So here we need to mention the serial interface 0 by 0 by 0. Now let's talk about our second indirect networks. So IP root, the indirect network IP addresses 30.0.0.0 and 255.0.0.0 is its subnet mask. Alright, so to reach this network, which port that we can use? Fast Ethernet? No, this is connected with our systems. Serial 000, this is connected with our router 1. Serial 001, which is connected with our third router, and in our third router 30 and 50 are the direct networks. So we can use this interface. So here I am going to mention serial 0 by 0 by 1. That's it. Now let's talk about our third router. So for our third router, 50 and 30 are the direct networks. So we need to mention network 10, 20 and 40. So let's do that. So the keyword is IP root and the indirect network is 10. Its subnet mask is 255.0.0.0 and the interface is serial 000 and F is 0 by 0 in our third router, and also our fast Ethernet port is connected with our systems with the help of switch, so we are not able to use this port for the further connection. So in third router 2 we have only one port, that is serial 0 by 0 by 0. So we need to use this port to make connectivity with another indirect network. So our first network is 10, second network is 20, and our third network is 40. So I have mentioned all the networks with their subnet mask and the same serial interface. Alright. So we have done with the configuration part. Now let's check the connectivity. So I'm also going to use this packet, and I just want to make connection between this system with this system. Now it's working. And my second network with the third one, it's also working. And remember one more thing, like whenever we are going to make connection between different networks and no matter between different devices, so if we are going to do that the very first time, so the first packet will be failed because of our protocol, which is the address resolving protocol. And after that, after failing of our first packet, all the packets will be successful. Alright, so if your packet is getting failed at the first time, don't worry, try to do that again. Second time, if your configuration is correct, your device will be able to make communication. Alright guys, so this is all about the static routing. If you have any doubts, any queries, then you can ask.